It is, believe me, the question of being an alcoholic. I'm not quite sure that I am one, but if I'm not one, I'm very near, right on the edge of being one. It is no laughing matter. It is not a laughing matter.
Hollywood's golden age was a time of glitz, glamour, and untouchable movie stars. But behind the dazzling lights and red carpets, some of the most legendary actors battled demons that would eventually consume them. Alcohol flowed as freely as money, and some of Hollywood's biggest names drank themselves into scandals, self-destruction, and even death. Compared to these old Hollywood icons, today's celebrities might just look like amateurs. Let's dive into the shocking stories of 30 classic stars whose drinking habits were legendary. Errol Flynn. Hollywood's original wild child. Errol Flynn wasn't just an actor, he was a walking party. Known for his charisma and swashbuckling roles, Flynn's off-screen antics were even more outrageous. He partied with world leaders, injected vodka into oranges so he could snack on booze, and was so notorious for drinking that Warner Brothers had to shut down bars on set to keep him sober. He even carried a doctor's bag filled with 2 bottles of vodka everywhere he went. Despite being warned that his lifestyle would kill him by 37, Flynn managed to outlive the prediction. Barely. He passed away at 50, his body ravaged by years of alcohol abuse. And in true Flynn fashion, he was buried with 6 bottles of whiskey. Spencer Tracy. Hollywood's most dangerous drunk. Unlike Flynn, Spencer Tracy wasn't a fun drunk. He was a nightmare. Tracy was known for bar fights, arrests, and once waking up in a padded cell in a Chicago asylum. MGM knew they had a problem on their hands, so they created the Tracy Squad, a team whose only job was to track him down whenever he got too wasted. If a bar saw him getting out of control, they'd call the squad, who would then swoop in with an ambulance, a doctor, and security to clean up the mess. Tracy's talent kept him in demand, but his drinking remained a lifelong struggle. Humphrey Bogart, the founder of the Rat Pack. Before Bogart became a film legend, he was just another Broadway actor with a serious drinking problem.
You know, I get here at 3:30 in the morning. They have to put the beard on and the white eyebrows and the makeup. And he said, and then when I'm through at night, I have to take all of this stuff off. And he said, I'm sweat under this hot robe. And Hope said, I've always said it's tough to be a Jew.
He was notorious for drinking until he passed out, and then getting into fights when someone tried to wake him up. When he moved to Hollywood, his drinking continued, especially at the infamous Garden of Allah, a hotel known for its 24-hour parties. Bogart eventually surrounded himself with fellow drinkers, including Frank Sinatra, and they formed the original Rat Pack. Despite his legendary status, Bogart once joked that the only time he quit drinking was the worst afternoon of his life. W.C. Fields, the man who drank like it was an Olympic sport. W.C. Fields turned drinking into an art form. He famously hoarded thousands of bottles of alcohol during Prohibition and was once seen drinking 5 glasses of rum in 2 hours while exercising.
Take a gambler's chance on a percentage of the profits basis?
Yes, just a moment. Was I in here last night and did I spend a $20 bill?
Yeah.
Oh, boy, what a load that is off my mind. I thought I'd lost it.
He even disguised gin as lemonade and became furious when someone pranked him by putting real lemonade in his flask. Fields' love affair with alcohol lasted his entire life, and while he lived to 66, his drinking finally caught up with him. Richard Burton, the man who was sober on 2 bottles of vodka. Richard Burton wasn't just a drinker, he was a force of nature. He once told a director he wasn't drinking during filming, except for his usual 1 bottle of vodka a day. By the 1970s, he was downing 2 to 3 bottles daily, claiming he only felt drunk after 3. His stormy relationship with Elizabeth Taylor was fueled by alcohol, and his health suffered immensely. Doctors were stunned by how much damage his body had endured, and by the time he died at 58, his liver and kidneys were beyond repair. Peter O'Toole, the man who bought a bar just to keep drinking. Peter O'Toole lived for chaos.
You are of the school and perhaps the heritage and the time where drinking was just something you did when you weren't doing anything else. Is that a fair way to express it?
And when you were doing something else.
Why not?
He once partied so hard on a barge that it sank. He frequently blacked out and woke up in strange places, including Mexico and strangers' apartments. When a pub tried to close for the night, he simply bought it. His drinking stories are the stuff of legend, and despite his wild lifestyle, he remained a critically acclaimed actor until his later years. Montgomery Clift, Hollywood's longest suicide. Montgomery Clift was one of the most handsome actors of his era, until a devastating car crash shattered his face. From that moment on, Clift drank heavily to cope with the pain, spiraling into what Marilyn Monroe called the longest suicide in Hollywood history. His drinking and drug use led to a rapid decline, and he died at just 45. Orson Welles, the man who drank himself to 400 pounds. Orson Welles was a genius filmmaker, but he was also an insatiable drinker. He discovered the Negroni cocktail while working in Rome and became so obsessed with it that he wrote an article about how it was good for the liver.
The taste of French champagne has always been celebrated for its excellence. There's a California champagne by Paul Masson, inspired by that same French excellence. It's fermented in the bottle, and like the best French champagne, it's vintage dated. Paul Masson's superb taste shouldn't be too surprising. This champagne doesn't come from France, but it was created by a man who did, Paul Masson.
His drinking and overeating led him to gain nearly 400 pounds, and he became famous for drinking between takes on set. By the end of his life, he was a spokesperson for multiple alcohol brands. Because why not monetize his own vice? Frank Sinatra, the king of cool and whiskey. Frank Sinatra's love for Jack Daniels was legendary. He had a flag outside his house that signaled when drinking time started, and he insisted on having a case of Jack Daniels stocked in his dressing room at all times. Even in death, he was buried with a bottle of it in his pocket. Daniel Craig, the booziest Bond ever. Craig's James Bond drinks more than any other Bond.
I can't let you go without talking about the thing that people are so excited about right now. And, not a sponsor of my show, but the good people at Belvedere Vodka hired you just to follow you in your natural habitat.
Yes.
Just doing what you naturally do,
I get up
enjoying
to.
some vodka.
That's how I check into a hotel.
Over 20 cocktails per film. And when Craig first landed the role, he celebrated with a solo vodka martini binge, drinking multiple martinis alone in his kitchen. While he's spoken openly about his struggles with alcohol, his on-screen Bond still holds the record for the most drinks consumed, the price of fame, and alcohol. Hollywood's golden age may seem glamorous, but for many of its biggest stars, it was a whirlwind of fame, excess, and self-destruction. Some of these actors drank themselves into early graves, while others miraculously survived their addictions. But one thing is certain, their stories prove that no amount of money or fame can shield someone from addiction. Which of these Hollywood legends' drinking habits surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and check out our next deep dive into Hollywood's wildest scandals.